All right, we have a quorum. So let's get started. It is 5:31. Welcome everyone to the March meeting of the Hadley Public Schools. Do I have a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Annie, can you take us through any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, the adjustments to the agenda are given the fact that our entire team cannot be here tonight. We will focus on action items this evening. We will discuss all action items except the capital plan, which there's no pressing need to discuss that this evening and revote it. We'll do that in April. All discussion items of the capital plan will be to April. I do want to say to you also that our student reps are not here because they are rehearsing. And if I may read this, as I must make sure that we all know, which we should attend, Hopkins Academy Drama Program to perform Clue on stage. So please come and join our students and our community for an evening of mystery, murder, and frivolity. The Hopkins Academy Theater Arts Club is producing the play Clue on stage, inspired by the board game of the same name. This is a hilarious farce, and all the characters with whom you are familiar, Colonel Mustard, Mrs. Peacock, and the rest of them, along with the butler, need to unravel a mystery of who did it, where, and with what. The performances are Friday and Saturday nights, March 29th, that's this Friday, and Saturday, March 29th and 30th, and also April 5th and 6th. They begin at 6 p.m. at Hopkins Academy. General admission is $15. You may purchase tickets at the door. Cash or check are accepted. It's $12 for seniors and students. So good reason. They've been doing nothing but rehearsing for a long time.
Sounds fabulous. I definitely would like to attend. And if any of my school committee colleagues would like to go with me, send me a text. I really enjoyed the last drama performance that I went to with Tara. And yes, I'm all in. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, let's begin with public comment. I'm not sure if we have members of the public here, but if we do and you'd like to make a comment, please limit it to 3 minutes. Something pertinent to the agenda would be ideal. And please raise your digital hand if you're interested in making a comment, and we will unmute you. Okay, seeing none. Let's move forward with the presentation and discussion items. Item 4A, summary of changes to the Hopkins Academy Program of Studies.
Yes, seeing as the school committee had the materials in advance, I know Ms. Camuso is here to answer questions should anyone have them. Of course, you can also move to the
Very good. Does anyone have any questions on the changes to the Program of Studies? Okay, I do have one quick question, and that is, I noticed that the number of credits went up pretty measurably. To what do you attribute, like what key areas shored up their credit requirements to have that substantial bump?
So just to clarify, is the question why the credits increased?
It's more like what areas, was it social studies that was missing 2 classes out of 4, or
So-
English, or?
No, so it has to do with the schedule. So because the schedule shifted, they now take 40 credits because those short, remember those 45-minute classes that they had that were less credits, because we took those all and put them all into longer blocks. Now each of those 8 courses is 5 credits. So they automatically have 5 more credits into their schedule. And for that one, we didn't add any additional requirements. All the requirements stayed the same. They just got put into the optional category of what they could take, but it didn't change any of their required courses. Those changes had already been made last year. I think the last additional requirement we made last year was the 4th science class, which they can take an elective or a standard core class. So no additional requirements, just the shift to 40 credits a year instead.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, that was it for me. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, seeing none, let's proceed, entertain a motion to approve the program of studies for the academic year 2024-2025.
So moved.
Okay, do you hear a second?
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes with 4 of us, and of course, 1 committee member absent. All right, moving on to item B, the Hopkins Academy field trip to Panama in April of 2025. And that's you, Senora.
And I would say similarly,
Oh.
the school committee has materials. I just want to take out the hood here. They do have all of your materials, Senora. So if folks have questions, I know, it's the same company you've used before.
Yes, are there any questions for Senora on the proposed trip to Panama?
Ruth Ann, this looks great, and I know I've always heard good things about your trips. It's just your experience, Ruth Ann. You've done this a lot about kids that are interested, paying. The typical questions we ask is, how does that working out these days? Or the folks who want to go, are they able to afford it? And so I saw you doing fundraising. You're proposing partnering with Smith Academy. I'm just wondering how that's been working out over the last few years.
Yeah, actually, we have done a lot of fundraising, and I think there have been kids who probably would not have been able to go had we not taken them on. I'm always searching for the way for actually every single person to go and not have any money as an issue, but I'm sure that, to be honest, I'm sure there are people who are not going because of money, but I would say it's limited, and we do offer loads of fundraising.
Excellent. Any other questions for Senora?
Will you be doing those scones again? Because those were really good. Just
Yeah,
throw that out there. I'm gonna pre-order.
okay, yes,
Those are fantastic.
if we partner with Smith Academy again, and I'm not sure if that's something I need to have approval from you all about too. We partnered with them before, and it was great success. They have the same attitude as we do. They have the same rules as we do. And it just helped. It helped the kids be able to afford it because the price went down when it was more people. So
Yeah.
yes, I'm hoping to partner with them.
Excellent, excellent. And let us know about the scones.
Or any fundraising.
Remind me, have you gone to Panama before?
No, this is a new
I
one.
don't think so.
Yep,
Yeah.
it is. The Smith group has been, as a matter of fact, they're going in 9 days. I think they're going in April vacation this year. They've been, and it seems to be one of their favorites. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I gotta say, I love it. I've been there twice. Last time I was there, I walked out of my room, there's a sloth hanging there. I love it. Kids are gonna love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
I've heard great things. It's on my bucket list. So happy to see you taking the students there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's see if there's a motion to approve the proposed trip to Panama in April 2025.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Senora.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, moving on down the agenda. We are next engaging in our required public hearing about the fiscal year 25 budget, along with regional data that Annie McKenzie will take us through. Annie.
Sure. So one, I want to say that there has been no change in financial data from the February presentation of the budget to the school committee. I am, however, happy to report, although it's not reflected in this document at this time, but I'm happy to report that our enrollment has increased this year. Our October 1 total enrollment was 503 students. Our current enrollment is 526 students. So a net increase of 23 students since October 1 this school year alone. And we are still getting people who are calling. Of those 23 students, I will say that the majority of them are Hadley residents. So we have seen a return from some of the private schools here and even from some charters to Hadley Public Schools. So we are grateful to have our families here and really appreciate it. In addition to the FY25 budget document, which again, you have previously seen, and there's no change financially to that, Chris and I did present it to the Town of Hadley's Finance Committee, and they were very supportive and did not have a lot of questions and had no concerns. But in addition to that, a document I also shared with them, which is linked into the agenda, is information on budget increases throughout the Commonwealth. It's not every single district, but there are a number of districts listed. As you can see, increases range from roughly 13% all the way down to just about 1%, less than 1%, but rounded up. And the average increase is close to 5%, as is the median increase. Hadley is requesting a 1.88% in local revenues, and you can see stacked up against increases throughout the Commonwealth that the budget proposal to the town is conservative in that regard. As I said, we did take the Finance Committee through this information, and I wanted you all to have it. So nothing has changed, but this is the official vote of the school committee for the budget at its public hearing.
That is excellent that we're coming in at 1.88, Annie. That is a number that is lower than what we originally saw, was it not? Or
correct. And I want to be clear, the total budget has increased. The total budget has increased by closer to 4%. But all of these numbers, the question I asked was increase to local contribution. So what is the effect on the town? Total operating budget in Hadley and in these towns where you see that increase, that's local increase. Their total budget could be higher than that. This is what they're asking their towns for an increase of. We originally asked the town for an increase of 3.75. And as they had indicated that all of the asks from every department exceeded projected available revenues. And they asked every single department to reduce their request. And they gave us a target number, asked us essentially to reduce it roughly by half. And there was a number of ways that we were able to get there, and the town helped us to get there. For example, they originally had asked us to cost share a new HR system, which they've decided not to move forward with in the next fiscal year. There were some other things regarding tuitions that worked out in our favor, which was so it is less than in January. It's a 3.75 increase to local, but after the town asked us to do that, what you saw in February is what you're still seeing now.
Excellent. I'm really glad to hear that we were able to come in under the requested amount. Really great news. Any other questions for Annie on this budget proposal, as well as the increase in comparisons?
I appreciate the work put in to sort of lay this out so that we can see and the public can see how we compare to other places. So thank you for that. I think it makes that visual helps when you're, discussing the budget and how we compare to other places.
And I'm glad I will add this as well. Very many, I don't want to say the majority, but what is not included here is that even with those increases, that I think I would say a fair number, a lot, and you've read this in the paper, of the districts had the increase, but they also had to lay off or reduce a lot of positions. You've seen this all around here. It's been in the paper. So I didn't have everybody's notes. People in every district put in notes, but we also are not doing a reduction in force. And whereas that's pretty widespread right now.
Great. Any other questions for Annie?
I do. Annie, yeah, as usual, very well presented. Can you walk us through just that school choice table on page 7?
Okay. Sure thing. Just get to page 7. The revenues applied to the budget? Yeah.
Correct.
So
yeah.
What's important there is you can see that, which I'm glad that people are paying attention to this, because you probably also read and heard in surrounding districts that over-reliance on school choice has created some fiscal problems for them in the FY25 budget. You can see that it's one of the ways that we also were able to get down to the target number that the town gave us, right? Is we are allocating more school choice funding into the operating budget. That has grown year over year. However, on page 8, it's really important to pay attention to is if we're using more money, is this also tracking with our school choice enrollment? And actually we have at least 3 more. That might be up to 127 right now. It might be 128. We've even had additional school choice students enter throughout this year, mid-year. So what we don't want to see is that we're using increasing amounts of school choice money while our school choice enrollments are declining, right? We want these things to track somewhat similarly. So we did use considerably more we've allocated, but that also is in response to the request from the town to reduce the ask, which they asked us to do that, not because they don't support the schools. They support the schools very, very much. The reality is everybody needs things. We are one department among many. And they are also facing their own kind of revenue things they're trying to sort out.
Thanks,
Great
Sam.
question. Excellent. Any other questions for Annie on the budget? Okay, seeing none, do I hear a motion to approve the fiscal year 25 budget?
So moved.
Any second?
Seconded.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you, Annie.
Thanks, Annie. Thanks, Chris.
All right, we're going to move next to the selection of the designer for the locker room project. And Chris, are you with us?
Okay, yes, I am here.
Great.
So we had 3 submissions for the locker room designer. I sent the submissions to all of you last week, so you could review on your own time. And this afternoon, I also sent kind of a comparison that just picked some highlighted items from their from their submissions, just to give a comparison of years in business, how many related projects they've had in the past 5 years, which would be, something from a municipality or a school district. They all included examples of recent locker room projects that they've done in the past several years. So 2 of them had 3. One of them, CHA, had 9 locker rooms. Also, just the number of personnel that they have at their disposal, which may just give an idea to you of their ability to get the project done, in a timely manner. And also just the years of experience for both the project manager and the project principal, which are all, it's not like there's anybody with 6 months of experience here. They're all, very experienced people, and all of the firms have been in business for, I think the newest one was 39 years. So, certainly we've gotten some good proposals from them. And oops. So I at this point in time, I just open it up for questions or discussion. If anybody would like to just start.
Great, thank you, Chris. Any questions for Chris on the 3 proposals?
Just to be clear, Chris, this is like we did with the fields. We need to recommend one.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I could state my opinion, but if others have questions, I'll defer until we get the questions out of the way.
I do not have questions, but I do want to commend you on sourcing 3, what seems like very viable and strong proposals. So we're in a good position to be able to choose from 3. And your the assessments that you've drawn about years of experience and size, I think all of those are equally sound. I think the firm that had a lot more employees, I'd be worried that we would kind of get lost as a customer amongst the really large firm. I think that was the only hesitation I had, that a small firm might be able to deliver better. But I really would welcome your perspective on which proposed, which proposal stood out to you.
I'm sorry, Mary, were you speaking to me or to the committee?
But I'm speaking to you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I would welcome your perspective. You may want to share that after maybe Paul shares his perspective. Paul, you mentioned you had comments on the proposals.
Yeah, I agree with you, Humira. I think Christy did a great job. Those are all very well qualified. Some of the things I was thinking through as I read through, one is more local than the other. So I was supportive of that. what to me, I really, because they all seem so very well qualified, have lots of experience, I really parsed out how they wrote the narrative in their project approach and their schedule. And to me, one kind of stood out for a couple of reasons. So CHA did stand out, and I think that is the one with the large number of employees. That their project schedule was the most detailed, which I appreciated. You know, I manage a lot of projects, and having somebody taking the time to think through that. Of course, we're not always going to stick to that exactly, but I really appreciate their itemization, the schedule. I appreciate their collaborative nature. They really talked about paying attention to the client and meeting with the client to understand the client. The others mentioned that as well. I thought their language and their approach was just a little bit more than the others, a bit more intentionally collaborative. And knowing that we're going to have to do this with essentially an HVAC process already going on, he's like, well, I want somebody that can make sure they can work across. So for what it's worth, to me, that CHA was, eked out a little bit. That said, it's not like they're clearly not the only ones who can do this. If others have strong opinions, definitely willing to discuss those.
I think all of them were impressive. I agree a little bit more with Humira on the they are such a large firm. I do like the fact that there is a local company that has done work that we can actually go see. But other than that, I don't think we can really go wrong.
Yes. Appreciate your comments there. Chris, when we were talking about this last, we stated that it would be ideal if we had the same designer, project manager as the firm that took on our HVAC project. Can you tell from this juncture which firm is most likely to put in for that? And does that factor into our decision-making or your decision-making?
Well, we've already approved CHA to be the vendor for the HVAC project. And to be honest, I agreed with what Paul said about the presentations. Excuse me. I mean, it was great to go through them because all of them were very comprehensive, I have to say. But in all honesty, I loved the fact that CHA included that project timeline because it really just gave us the impression that, oh, wow, so this is, more or less. I mean, obviously there are delays on either side, for whatever reason, but it pretty much gave us a timeline that we can expect on when things would be done. That takes a lot of, for lack of a better term, headache away from me to have to worry about, geez, how long is this going to take, That gave me the perfect impression of how long it would take. And it really gave me the thought of, if they're putting a proposal like this together, it certainly made me feel comfortable with the job they would do, for the design work. I will also say that the project manager is attending this meeting tonight from that particular firm. I'm not sure if there's one from another firm here as well, but there could be. I'm not sure who this other person
No,
is.
that's an employee of Hadley Public School.
Okay, then no. So they did have someone come and attend this meeting, which I thought was pretty good as well.
Agreed. Well, given that CHA's already proposed the engineering, it's already been selected to do the engineering work for the HVAC. I think that would really be a smart move for us to make sure that that the designs were being done by someone, an entity that had knowledge of both systems and could integrate the pathways of the schedule and ensure that there was no redundancy taking place, redundant work. So despite being large, I mean, many large firms have small practices that, are able to be very effective. I think that could also be a plus in some respects. So I would be willing to support CHA receiving this proposal approval. Any other questions or thoughts from my colleagues on this? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to approve the CHA bid for our locker room project?
Removed.
And a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, Chris, for
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
another successful bid proposal selection process.
And thanks to
Mara,
the
I
other
may
bidders.
have, I'm sorry. Sorry, Paul.
I was just gonna say, it doesn't look like the other bidders are on, but just a note, I know it's a lot of work to put these bids together, so we appreciate their response, and it's, I think you're right, Humira, that synergy potentially between both projects would be huge. And hopefully we can get some efficiencies and cost savings by doing that. Thanks. Sorry, Annie.
No worries. I just realized that we may need to revote with the specific figures on the FY25. Is that what you'd like us to do, Chris Desjardins? Is that necessary?
I had originally sent out an email with, what I considered to be a good motion, and then
No,
all of a
those were
sudden the sense of-
FY24. Yeah.
panic came through me when I realized I was trying to quickly do it while you were discussing it, and I looked at the wrong year column. So, and that's why I quickly
Yeah.
sent an email out, as presented, it will be fine. We can just.
As
attach it.
presented. Okay, I will state it just so it's on the record. What was voted, what was presented is a
Okay.
total budget, and I am rounding, a total budget here for FY25, the school department of $9,635,019 and a local contribution of $7,893,990.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, so no need for another motion, but I'm glad that's just as presented. That is what was presented. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, let's keep moving. We are at the business manager report. And again, in light of the fact that we're one person down and we have some folks we may lose in a short while. It's up to you how much detail you want to take us through as it relates to expense revolving and grants. Chris, feel free to take it away, and we look forward to a more in-depth report again in the April timeframe. So please take us through your business manager report.
Sure. Okay. I mean, the expense report, really, not a lot to report. We've moved some items that were posted incorrectly into the correct accounts, made some transfers to grants, from the general fund. This puts us pretty much in line to finish the year with a, possibly a slight amount left over. So that's certainly in good shape. With the revolving accounts, the only thing I wanted to point out in those is that the lunch account showed a negative balance of $5,000, roughly $5,800. And that is basically, we've had two deposits that were not posted yet when I ran the accounts. So there was a January update, and then the February deposit were not posted. So that will bring it back to a balance of about $25,000. So, I just wanted to fill you in so you didn't look and say, oh my God, we're in the negative here. Sometimes I'm just at the mercy of when these items are posted on the town side. So
Like the old days, Chris.
that's right. Yes. And then for the grants, you can see there were further expenses made to the grants, still a decent amount more to spend on them, but we will continue to post expenses to them. And as always, utilize every bit of the grant money that we can. So, and that's really all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Chris? Okay, seeing none, let's move to the last item in your report.
Oh,
And
the
that is-
district cook.
Yes.
Yes, so we have a district cook. We did a survey, a couple of surveys actually, on the food quality of the food services program in the schools, and got a lot of great feedback from the students on what they like, what they don't like. And as a result of that, we have a district cook who was basically working out of Hopkins, and the meals were cooked at Hopkins and brought over to HES. And it was requested that, well, not requested, but noted that the food quality might improve if it was actually cooked on premises instead of cooked ahead of time and brought over. So because the job description said that the district cook would be working out of the Hopkins location. We just revised that basically to have it where, she could be working out of either location.
Excellent. Any questions for Chris on this? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the district cook job description as presented.
So moved?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
So
Okay.
Chris, how does that work? They might work in either place?
Yeah, the way
situation?
we scheduled it is, she's going to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at HES
Okay,
and Thursday, Friday at Hopkins.
okay,
We just started actually getting the pizzas brought in from Papa John's instead of the ones that we had. Pizza was a big complaint item with the students, so we reached out and got a vendor that could supply those for us. And also flavor of the food. Kids want salt. Sadly, we really can't give them salt, but we are going to have what we're calling a flavor station in each building, where we will have like a Mrs. Dash type of seasoning instead of salt, pepper, ranch dressing, et cetera, for flavoring the food, a little bit more, and hopefully that will help as well. This is all starting on April 1st. Both the cooking in both schools and the flavor stations. So, tell the kids they should like their meals a lot more in a couple of weeks.
I just have to say, I'm really pleased that we're asking the students. I've heard some grumblings from my own three. And I appreciate the attention that's being paid to bringing flavors. I've been doing a lot of reading on ways you can flavor food without salt. That involves lemon, herbs, tahini, a whole host of different ways that go back centuries. So I really appreciate our own team looking at those ways. Thanks. Any other
Yeah, the
questions?
survey was, oh, I'm
Please.
sorry, what?
No, please.
Okay, I was just gonna say, the survey was done by the Wellness Committee. And so that, obviously was a big help. We also did one among the food services staff, just to get their take on, do you have everything you need to do your job? All kinds of questions like that, just to really make sure we can tweak the program as good as we can.
Excellent. Any
I
other
do-
questions? Yeah, please, Chris.
Yeah, I literally jumped right over this, and then I went back after you'd made a comment about HES. So where it says prepares the alternate meal for Hopkins with necessary assistance, is that supposed to still be in there, or is that supposed to be taken out?
That's a very good question. I would say, this drives me crazy, but I really think that it probably should say for the district.
Okay,
If can we just
Just
do
picked up on
a motion with an amendment to change that for the district?
Yes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the district cook job description as presented with the modification of replacing Hopkins by for the school district.
so moved.
Then,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you again, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, we are, let's see, we're at action items, and I think we've approved all the ones that are listed here except for the minutes.
Correct. That's all you have left.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the February 26th meeting?
So moved.
And a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent, thank you. School committee updates and general announcements. We're going to keep it light. Would love to hear about the playground. Tara, can you take us through both the CPAC and CES part of your update as well?
yeah. So, CPAC, the meeting, excuse me, for March was moved to April. So I don't have any updates for this month. CES, we are meeting on Wednesday. I had to think, I was thinking it was next week, but it's this week on Wednesday. We're meeting, so I'll have an update. We haven't had the meeting in January or February, so it's the first meeting of the new year, March. And we're meeting this Wednesday. So I'll have an update in April for that. And I'll send out the information when I get that as well, just so that you can review ahead of time. The playground. So I had Annie attach a document, and I don't know if you've had a chance to read it, but what I'll do is I'll try to add on to this every time so that you can kind of see the continuity of where we are now versus where we are 2 months from now or whatnot. So we have been reaching out to potential donors and requesting donations. A lot of our focus thus far has been on kind of some of the bigger donors. So I think, forget if I mentioned last meeting, we did secure 50,000 from Belize and Steve Lewis Subaru. So we are going to be receiving that on Thursday. We'll be getting a check presentation. Myself, Jen Bowden, principal at Hadley Elementary, as well as PTO representatives will be there. I don't know if anybody else is going or not, but I know those groups will be there to receive that check. We have gotten or secured yet to receive a pledge of $10,000 from People's Bank, so we're really excited and thankful for them. We have submitted to several other banks. Several other banks have indicated to us that they're very excited to help out. We have not gotten the donation amount, but that's in the works right as we speak. And we did submit to East Hampton Savings Bank, and I've been told that we're approved, but they haven't disclosed the amount yet. So hopefully next time we will have a better idea of that. And we've been reaching out to other local companies around to get donations. So we've had a lot of people also say that, yes, they're willing to donate, and some of the smaller places have not disclosed them. So as those keep coming in, we'll be updating everybody. And surely we'll be making sure that we'll be able to recognize some of these donors as well. The public forum here or on social media or whatnot, if they approve of that, of course. So we are going to have a table set up for donations at the hot dog, the 5K run that's being done by Park and Rec. We have one parent who's been very active, and so she is willing to help solicit for donations while she's there at the run work. So that'll be there. We're going to have a Venmo, the scan codes. I forget what they're called. I'm very not savvy with those. But there will be one of those barcode things that people will be able to scan and make a donation directly while they're there. So hopefully we'll be able to do some action that way. When we met a few weeks ago as a group, there was discussion about coordinating a fundraising event. People are interested in doing like a bingo night. So hopefully more to come on that. We're going to be meeting again next week to talk about kind of who's going to run it, when it's going to, all the details about, what where. So more to come on that, but it will be kind of a fun community event. Sorry, I'm reading my notes of what I put in here. Jen and I met with a playground vendor. So Chris has graciously allowed us to kind of meet with vendors, and Jen's been working to coordinate kind of what the new playground would look like based on kind of what we anticipate being able to afford. And so we did meet with somebody, and we're hoping to have sketches in for that within the next 2 weeks. We've given our ideas. They've seen the playground and know the measurements and whatnot. And they know kind of the ballpark of what we're looking to stay within or hoping to stay within. So hopefully we'll have some good information about kind of what we'll be able to get. So more to come on that in the coming months. So I didn't, so right now, including school of choice money, we have $161,500 as of right now. So more next month on that. The only other thing that I included in here is there'd been some discussion. I'd heard from several different parents that are kind of working either with me in the fundraising group as well as outside of the fundraising group, that some donors, and these are some of the bigger donors, not not the smaller ones, that really are looking for something, some form of recognition that's more than just a social media post or a verbal recognition at kind of the opening. And so there was a lot of discussion back and forth about, well, what would people like to see? And so we were hoping to take a look at, I don't know if you're able to see my slide yet today, um, but we're hoping to take a look at not naming it the ground after anything. We don't want to name a slide or anything like that, but we would like to consider, if the school committee is willing to approve, having some form of um, you know, plaque of appreciation, something small and tasteful, but allows businesses to be able to have it recognized, or potentially even large uh, family donors or prominent families in town that have donated a good amount of money. Just something to recognize. And in general, I know we don't do a lot of this. In general, we've got a lot of the same businesses and people that give a lot of money every time we do a project. And they're very generous and very, very appreciative for all of that. And so, I kind of talked it over with some of these parents, and I think it would be nice to be able to recognize some of these donors, even if it's something that we haven't done maybe on a consistent basis in the past. It didn't mean that we couldn't find a way to tastefully recognize them going forward. I put on this slide as well, so it looks like, obviously the school looks a little bit different for when the school was built, but even something like the climbing wall. So something smaller that would be able to recognize donors on there. On my document, I had put for donations over 10,000. I guess that could be up for discussion if people feel very differently about amounts or whatnot, but just being able to give that recognition. And I know that hasn't been discussed yet on the fields either, but maybe it's something we could discuss, especially with, again, the same groups of people. Steve Lewis is always very gracious. CPA is always very gracious. Board of Trustees always very gracious. And something that just has a name, it doesn't have to be named after somebody, but just something that just says some form of recognition, appreciating their continuous support. So I guess I'm asking the school committee to allow for an adjustment to the donor recognition to allow for a plaque recognizing them.
Thank you, Tara, for the update and the presentation and the provocation that we might want to consider ways to recognize donors. I see a hand, and Chris, I'll get to you in just a moment. I think what my instincts are, because this is a new proposal, that we give ourselves some time to think about the ways that we might want to recognize it. And I love what you've proposed. And I also appreciate that we have a long list of donors for a lot of very important projects. So I want to be really thoughtful in how we approach this. And I want to decide soon, but not like right tonight. I want us to have a chance to think about what those options might be, and that we talk it over. That we talk it over at our next meeting is what I would say, like with Ethan back as well. But in principle, I really agree that we should find a way to acknowledge our donors, and though, of course, the devil's in the details. So let's find a way to do that in a way that's sustainable in light of how much contribution there is and how many people we are recognizing. Christine, Pip, I'm going to call on you first.
So, yeah, I'm wondering, what kind of timeline are you looking at? In terms of, I know, I don't know if you need this, I was gonna ask, do you need us to vote on this today? Is this something that you need to know going forward in order to speak to those businesses? Because, you know, if we're looking to get the money sooner rather than later, that may be an issue. That's, I guess that's what I'm asking, is what's your timeline on this?
So, as far as the project goes, we don't need to have any, we don't need to have any funds secured, until the project is completed. So for people who are really unwilling to, give anything without that, I'll tell you, there are some people that are really, you know, looking for something a little bit more, and I can appreciate that. I can. And so, but we've been able to make good progress on some of these things without having that. Obviously sooner than there is not, but if kind of, I would say the general consensus is that, okay, yes, let's find a way to recognize, but maybe, you know, we want to discuss it as a group, what that looks like. It might be enough of a promise to people without knowing exactly what. Sounds like Annie might have a thought though.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say that perhaps the sentiment that I'm getting, the feeling I'm getting is that the school committee is very interested, as we discussed with the fields, in recognizing all of the various individuals and organizations that have been supportive of the school. So I don't see or hear any resistance to recognizing them. You currently have a policy, FF, it's linked into the agenda. What it states now is that when there's an opportunity to name it, although it says facilities, it also says structures, that the submission of a name for a school space or structures fall under this may be made by any resident or by the superintendent in writing, and should be made to the school committee chair. All that to say that if there are folks that were thinking like, let's consider recognizing people, whether it's, as you said, a plaque at this level or whatever that is, we can put that on the April agenda and everybody can discuss it. And I think the message to people is the school committee, it's not a question of whether or not the school committee wants to recognize people who have been generous. It's just making sure that we follow our own policies and how we do it and that we're consistent across the board. But I've already added it to a draft April agenda. That would be helpful to the committee. And maybe also in addition to that, having, which you've already done some of that, like suggested at this level, that you already have all that, but what is the actual physical thing and where might it go?
And I wonder, Annie, if you wouldn't mind just asking around to some trusted superintendents to find out what other districts have done in this instance, beyond the plaque, which, you know, that old trusty plaque, it's, you know, who wants to receive a plaque really? But I mean, something in the hallway, super, you know, nice and very, you know, it can be elegant, but is everyone reading the plaque? Is that the best we can do? And I'm not a fan of naming, so I'm not suggesting that we even think about going down that road, but what are other things that you could do that are super meaningful and symbolic and give the donor the recognition that they deserve? Thank you.
I think there's a nice example. There is one where it's actually on the next page where it's part of the playground. You know, something like that I think is nice, where it's actually part of the playground. And you know, the community can see it, and it's not sort of hidden away, you know, in the building, but actually part of the structure, I think is kind of nice.
I will say we have about 15 donors for the fields, I think, and there was just a recent large private donation as well. It's not ripe to mention here, but so we're still getting donations actually for the fields. People, as you said, Tara, just incredibly generous businesses. We have Billy Steve Lewis Subaru contributed to the athletic fields as well, and then the climbing wall. This is at least the third donation to the schools that I can think of, and it's just amazing, right? So I agree with you, Humira. Let's be thoughtful, and then we'd always and I'm looking back at our donor spreadsheet for the fields. It goes back to January of 2018, And we were talking to people then that they would be recognized. And we just haven't. We had a temporary recognition while the first phase was complete. Now we're in the second phase. So the timing's right to say how we're going to do this.
Great. I would welcome your thoughts too. So that conversation that we have in April, I'd like it to be a broader conversation so that we can make sure to address the field's opportunity as well.
And to mirror that, all that tapping was, I just sent it out to the superintendent listserv. Can we be more creative than a plaque in this or something short of naming particular pieces after people? I'll bring that information back.
Terrific.
And I think
Thank you.
just to go full circle, if I can, to Chris, commenting on kind of the timeline. I think that with this, I can at least go back to the group and say, yeah, school committee is very supportive, and we just want to make sure that we're able to consistently and having kind of a common way that we make that recognition. But it sounds though that we're all on the same page, that there will be something physically there, and that in and of itself satisfies people's kind of wants, right? So
Like a public permanent recognition is what they're looking for.
exactly, yeah, is what they're
Yeah.
looking for. And so it sounds like that is something we'll talk about, whatever that may be, maybe
Right.
not a plaque or whatever it is, some form of public permanent recognition.
I want to be open-minded that it could be something physical, but maybe it's not something physical. I just want to be, I don't want to shut down our options of what a non-physical thank you would look like, just in the event that we come across something that is also pretty profound. So we definitely want to do some form of recognition. We want it to be special. We've got 3 different projects that we're thinking about, at least 2 different projects. And we should all put out our feelers and our thinking caps, if you will, and be ready to talk about some options in April.
Oh, okay. Mara, I'm sorry, you lost me on the non-physical. What do you mean by non-physical options?
Well, I mean, in my world of receiving major gifts and donations in the academic world, our thank yous look different to our donors. They do not result in a plaque, and some of those thank yous are pretty special. And so what I don't want to do is shut off our brainstorming abilities and preclude us from thinking bigger if in fact there is an option that is bigger. So I might not know what that bigger option is at this moment, but I just don't want to stifle our thinking by saying, well, it has to be a physical object.
I will say too, that we could wrap in there too, for the fields at least, a groundbreaking ceremony. I think we should plan that as well.
That's
I totally agree. Your big picture thinking here, Mary. Whenever you push us to do that, we always come up with something better. So willing definitely to be in your hands on that. I will say some folks have come to us and said, hey, can I name this? Can I name this? Because that's how we think, right? That's the pattern. So, yep.
And that is reserved for, like, I mean, naming is just a really big deal in the world of giving, and there's so much.
Yeah, but we're not academics. I mean, we're not $10 million hospital.
We're not, but
you know,
even to commercialize, to have a commercial name in an academic setting, even with our, and that's
we have several in memory of
professional. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's think about this. This is a great conversation. Thanks.
Yes, and thank you, Tara, for helping us, get there. Thank you.
Nice.
All right. We are, let's see, just reviewing our agenda items. District Policy FF, sorry, that was the naming one that you
Yeah.
pointed us to. So we're on to item 7, and I don't believe, no
executive session.
executive session
Yeah.
is needed. Our next meeting date is April 22nd. There will be a policy subcommittee meeting at 4:30, after which our regular school committee meeting will be held at 5:30 p.m. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
My
Seconded.
my dog Molly is concurring with both of you. I think she just thirded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.